Clarissa Burt here, and I am back in the limelight with yet another extraordinary entrepreneur, author, speaker. We'll get to him in just a second. We've been away for a little bit, just trying to get ourselves back into the loop. We've got new systems going. Really excited about the way everything's looking. Let me get the background right. There you go. And it's going to take me a minute to learn everything. But, really happy to be back. We've got a great series coming up of entrepreneurs that are fantastic leaders and that also do a lot of work in the personal development, self-help, and self-improvement area. So without further ado, I'm going to bring on as our next guest. Let me bring him in. There's Chris. Is it Livezey?
It's pronounced like Livesey.
Livesey. Okay, very good. Love that. Livesey. All right, there he is. There's Chris. He's, as I said, an author, a speaker, a mindset coach, and a real estate investor. We can talk about that too. But more than anything, I really want to take a deeper dive into the shortcut of Magnificence, which is his 13 principles to living a more successful life. I love that, Chris. It's right up my alley. I wrote a book on self-esteem. So all about helping people look better, feel better, be better, and live a greater good. And I think also in these times, people need to take a kind of step sideways and really come back home, come back to focus, and come back to personal development. What do you say?
Well, I agree. And I think a big thing is really understanding how our mind works. And I think we're coming into a day of age where people are nervous about AI and getting replaced and their jobs. And I want to teach people really how their mind works, the difference between their conscious and subconscious mind, and how we have built-in technology in our own mind where we can program our subconscious mind to really live the magnificent life that we want.
Exactly. I want to take a deeper dive now into the 13 principles, right, that you have in your book. I did take a look at it. Thanks again for sending that. The first one you start with is faith and spirituality. Interesting choice.
Yeah. And I teach people how to develop enough faith within yourself by understanding the spiritual side to our personality, which I believe resides in the mind. And since nobody's seen a picture of the mind, they often confuse their mind with their brain. So I created it. Well, actually, I got a diagram from my mentor, Bob Proctor, that I use in my book that really gives you an image of how the mind works and how we can program our own mind.
You have worked with really some of the greats. I took a look. Who are some of the other, remind me, when I went to take a look, there were some really great names.
Les Brown, Jack Canfield. I've studied a lot in Napoleon Hill, Andrew Carnegie. I mean, if you name the person in personal development, I've studied from them. Tony Robbins, the list goes on.
Tony, I haven't met. The other ones I have, of course, except for Napoleon Hill, obviously, but everybody else I met, they're just, fabulous leaders, and very strong leaders in mindset, which is fabulous. Your second is thoughts and feelings, which kind of, attentions to the law of attraction and vibration.
Yeah. Yeah. And that goes right into what you just said, the law of attraction, the law of vibration, and understanding that every thought that we think has a frequency, and it's the thought that when we attach an emotion to the thought, that's the frequency that we're sending out to the world. And a lot of people think that this stuff is wishful thinking, but in recent science, discoveries in neuroscience, like brain cells that wire together, fire together.
Yeah.
So the more that we think about a thought over and over again, we send out that frequency. And when we attach an emotion to it, that causes that thought to manifest in our life much faster.
Yeah, and I'd like to also kind of underline, this stuff is scientifically proven. This isn't woo-woo. This isn't wishful, like you said, wishful thinking. This isn't just something somebody, thought up one day and thought it sounded good.
Yeah.
Anybody that has exercise, any kind of meditation and meditative practices knows that this stuff is really extremely powerful. Vision boards, for example. I mean, some of the vision board things that I put up there and I never thought that I would achieve, boom.
Well, and I carry a little card with me at all times, which is what Bob Proctor taught me to do. And you write down your little card. I keep it in my pocket with me, and every time I put my hand in my pocket, I feel the card. I pull it out, and it's just a reminder of the goal that I set, and then I just embed that into my subconscious mind.
Yeah, it's remember when The Secret came out? Was it like 25 years ago? And how groundbreaking
2006, I think.
Yeah, was it? Yeah, so 20 years ago, right? That was groundbreaking work. And I think it really, kind of opened up to a broader audience. So kind of what we're talking about right now and what the greats have been talking about forever. So glad to hear about.
Well, it's funny that you bring up The Secret, because that was the first introduction that I had to Bob Proctor. And I started learning this stuff back in 1999. And I was a troubled teen, headed down the wrong path. I was given a book by my father that was written by Zig Ziglar.
Right.
That really resonated with me, got me to believe in myself, and I transformed my life. And that's why I tell people that this really isn't wishful thinking, that I was able to achieve anything that I put my mind to from 1999 up until I got trained by Bob Proctor when I first met him in 2011. I didn't understand what I was doing, but I thought I had like this magical wand that anything I waved at, I was able to manifest into my life. And how did you
happen upon Bob Proctor? Like when you're a troubled teen, most troubled teens don't know if there's a way out unless they're taught or told. Was it the book that your dad gave you? Was that kind of your
Well, that was a Zig Ziglar book called See You at the Top. And there was a story in that book about a little boy with cerebral palsy. And he was diagnosed with having cerebral palsy by 30 different specialists. And these 30 specialists told this little boy's parents to put him in an institution for the good of the normal members of the family. But that little boy's parents didn't want their child to grow up to live a life institutionalized. So they rejected the ideas of the 30 different specialists, really went to work on this little boy's mind. And miraculously, within a short period of time, this little boy overcame the symptoms of cerebral palsy. By the time he was in 7th grade, he was skating on the neighborhood hockey team, doing as many as 1,100 push-ups and doing extremely well in 9th grade math as a 7th grade student. So when I was reading this story, I was in 9th grade. It's 1999. And I'm thinking, if this little boy could overcome the symptoms of cerebral palsy and 30 different specialists get it wrong, they told this little boy's parents to put him in an institution. Yeah. But now this little boy grew up to live a happy, normal life, became a father, became a happily married guy, father, and did extremely well working for a real estate firm up in Winnipeg, Canada. And that was really the defining period of me understanding how powerful the mind was. And I started to go to work on myself and my own mind and just saw remarkable changes take place where I made the varsity baseball team, wrestling team, was given an award for unsung hero. And that's actually when I gave my first motivational speech to the entire school. And I set the goal that I wanted to become a motivational speaker by the time I was 30 years old.
Awesome. Absolutely. Well, good on you. Listen, talents, interests, and experiences. How does that kind of fit into all of this?
So I tell people, I created this thing that I call the tie triangle, which is based on your talents, interests, and life experiences. And a lot of people go through life wondering what their purpose is, what their calling is, or even what they should go to college for to major in to pick a career. And I created this because I felt like a lot of people in the personal development space could get you psyched up and excited about achieving your goals in life. But then a lot of people didn't understand what their true purpose was. So I tell people to take out a blank piece of paper, draw 2 lines down the center and make 3 columns and list your top 10 talents, interests, and life experiences. And then you want to follow those 3 different areas in choosing your purpose in life or your career, because that's what you're going to be best at. That's what you're going to hold close to your heart. And that's where you're really going to excel most in life, not just taking a job or a career that gives you a good paycheck. Yeah. You want to really find something that you're good at, have a deep interest in, or have experienced something.
And I think there's a really good dose of courage that comes with all of that as well, because you can know what it is, maybe what your purpose is, but then, putting sort of, the whole courage part of, am I good enough? I'm going to be able to do this. Who do I think I am? That there's a lot of mental work I find, at least in my personal development experience, which has been all about, who am I to think that I could? Will I ever be able to? Who's going to laugh at me? That sort of thing. So this is also where, my personal development, self-improvement journey started many, many years ago, long before you were born. And, and so, yeah, I mean, it's a huge piece of, you have to also set into place, not only, what is your purpose, but how are you going to achieve that purpose? And certainly to believe in yourself as much as you can along the way and do the work that it takes to really believe in yourself.
Well, and a lot of people don't really think about this, but if you wanted to get good at playing your golf game, you would hire a golf coach. So once you understand what it is that you want, it's really important to get yourself a mentor, have some role models that you can follow in the path that you want to choose as your career, and follow these mentors. If you just know what you want, find people who are already successful at doing what it is that you want and follow those people. That alone is going to put you on a path to magnificence much faster than doing the regular routine of life of,
college degree, like a
or
college.
exactly.
Right. I love when I read that when you said that. I thought that was really great. A mentor can be 10 times more valuable, right, than a college degree. And I couldn't agree more. I think that was.
And let me just say, and when I was so after reading the personal development books, when I got myself into high school, I started reading books on business, entrepreneurship, and real estate. And one of the books I read was the Rich Dad, Poor Dad book, which really opened my mind up to how the rich get richer and the poor stay poor. And I came up with the idea that for me to become a motivational speaker by age 30, I could become a successful real estate investor, and that would gain me enough credibility by age 30, I could become a speaker. Halfway through my senior year, I decided to drop out of high school to pursue my entrepreneurial path, and everybody in my life thought that I was crazy.
Sure.
And a lot of people said, how are you going to support a family? How would you ever take care of a wife? You're going to have a difficult life if you don't finish high school and go to college. But yet the information that I was learning was just know what you want, find a mentor, follow that person. And that's what I did. I knew I wanted to get started in real estate. I didn't have any formal education, no financial backing, and nobody in my life was investing in real estate at the time.
Right.
But I instantly found a mentor in the real estate world who was working in Philadelphia, buying a lot of properties. He took me under his wing. And within my first year doing real estate, I accumulated over $1 million worth of real estate, took my income from around 40,000 a year to over 300,000. And that was all within the power of getting myself a good mentor, even when everybody in my life, friends, family, teachers, they all doubted me.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, there's plenty of that. I mean, I was certainly, the business that I undertook was rife with rejection, and that was modeling and acting. So again, having that really strong belief in yourself and knowing how to deal with rejection, because most people, most of the people, photographers or, anyone else that I was working with, they didn't know what they wanted either. So it was not necessarily about you. It was about them not necessarily knowing what they wanted. I digress. Let's get back to the importance of giving back.
Yeah, Zig Ziglar has a quote that says, if you help enough other people get what they want, you'll eventually get what you want. So early on when I was studying stuff in Zig Ziglar, I picked up that quote, and I always thought, the more that you want out of life, figure out what you're doing for other people. If you can provide service for other people, you're going to get more of what you want. So always think, what are you giving back to others? If you can find problems in people's lives, solve those problems for other people, that's going to help you in return.
I think it's just really a really good staple of having a good heart and just wanting the best for everyone. And that's not on everyone's agenda. A lot of people are really more worried about how they can get what they want. And I think that's a really important part, the importance of, my 4 pillars of self-esteem: look good, feel good, be good, and greater good. And that whole greater good thing could be a smile. It could be a compliment. Some people think it's a really broad stroke, and giving back means you really have to put in a lot of money, or, you have to donate a lot of it. You don't. You have to do all of you. It's lovely if you can, but if you can't, sometimes just a gesture.
Or volunteering somewhere, giving up your time, simple compliments, like you said, just being an overall good person. Leave every person that you meet with an impression of increase.
No doubt. No doubt. Yeah, I love that. We talked about role models and mentorship. It's another one of your 13 principles. Did you want to add to that in any way?
Yeah. So what I tell people is, how I got my education, since I didn't go to college, I figured out the areas of interest that I had. So whether it was real estate, business, entrepreneurship, fitness, wealth creation, and then I found public speaking. And I created my own little chart of mentors and role models that were successful in those areas. And then I just found books and went to seminars, TV programs, anything I could find that those people were doing. That's what I wanted to program into my mind. And
Yeah.
a simple exercise, just knowing what you want, find people who are doing it, and then study everything that these people already have out there in the world.
Who did you get into the room with you never thought you could?
I mean, Les Brown.
Yeah.
Yeah, Les Brown was a big mentor of mine too. I always call it, he's more of like your motivational guy. I
Yeah.
dive a little deeper into how the mind works, but Les Brown, like, I like the way he delivered his speeches.
Yeah, Les has this uncanny way of remembering every quote on the planet, which is extremely,
Yeah.
like every motivational quote is, he'll be up on stage and he comes out with 15 of them, in 20 minutes, which is amazing how he does that. And he's, was it somebody, Mamie's baby boy? I forget exactly what he says about his mom.
Yeah, about his mom, because he was a stepchild that came from two twins, and yeah, his adopted mom brought him and his brother in and really gave him the life and the opportunity to do what he's doing.
Had a lot of pictures with Les, and there was one time that we were on a cruise together, and we were on a cruise. It must have been 30 of us. So there's a lot of downtime, and so I got to sit with him for like an hour and a half, and he like mapped out everything for me, and I taped it. I still have it to this day. I don't know if I did everything he said, but it was an extraordinary, hour and a half to sit with Les and pick his brain on things. It was just great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and as many of them are, right? As many of our the leaders that came before us and on the shoulders on which we stand were some very, very extraordinary leaders. Money and investing. You want to build some financial freedom. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, so I tell people, you got to get money working for you. And that's one of the first things I learned in real estate. It's, I would see people that would make, $1 million a year versus 50,000. They were living no different than the $50,000 a year than the person making $1 million, because as long as you're going to work and exchanging your time for money, you're never going to get ahead in life. So I learned real fast that investing in real estate and figuring out how to get some rental properties that would kick off residual income freed up a lot of my time to do the things that I wanted to do, which is how I was able to spend so much time traveling the country, going to seminars. First, I had the money to do it, and I had the freedom to do it. And I see people all the time going to a job that they don't like, working around people that they don't really want to be around, not making as much money as they'd like to make. Right. Meanwhile, they spend half their life doing that and not really around their friends and family. Mm-hmm. So I teach people, even if it's just, you can create a book, write a book out. And if you sell a book for $20, your goal should be marketing. How do I market this to 1 million people? 20 times a million, there's $20 million. I mean, that might be a far stretch for some people, but it's just figuring out how you can do stuff to get your time back. Figure out a way to make money to free up your time to do the things that you want to do.
Extraordinary things and fun things and relaxing things and time with family things, without a doubt.
And nowadays with the internet, it's so much easier for people to gain information, put together a product, a program, get out on the internet and generate. And a lot of people can, they might not want to become a multimillionaire, but it's pretty easy for people to create something where they can create an extra $300 to $5,000 a week just using the internet.
So work and workout and diet plans. That's where that's a little bit my downfall. I'm not going to say I never work out and I'm always on a diet, but I could do better.
It's one of the biggest, most important aspects to life that I first learned. And I've been working out consistently 4 to 6 days a week for the last 26 years. So, and now I go 6 days a week, 2 hours a day. And a lot of people say, well, where do you get the time and the energy to always go to the gym? And I'm like, no, you got it all wrong. I get the energy from going to the gym. And that's why I'm always like fully energized, happy about life. And it brings a lot of clarity to me. It's all about the mind-body connection. If you have a goal, you're working out and you're going after that goal, your mind, body are connected towards really living life to the fullest. And I tell people, if you're in sales, you should definitely be working out because you're more energized, more fun to be around, and you can sense that in people.
No doubt. And then that is pretty, I would say, closely hand in hand with your motivation and study hour.
Yep. So, and then So once you know what you want, so an hour a day should be spent doing some type of physical activity to get your body in check and to keep your body healthy. But the same applies for your mind. You want to work out your mind and devote an hour a day to studying, learning, watching seminars, reading books. And this can be done even at the gym. So I gave up listening to music a long time ago, and now I'll listen to podcasts when if I go on a treadmill for 30 minutes, I run 3 miles. Rather than listen to music, I'll listen to a podcast. I
Who are
have
you
a rule that
listening to?
right now I'll listen to a lot of mostly Napoleon Hill, Bob Proctor stuff, because I know through even if I listen to the same one 100, I'll listen to the same one 100 times, because I understand it's through the repetition of that's really sinking into the subconscious mind. So if I read a good book, I never read it once. I'll read it at least 10 times, and then I'll go back with a highlighter. I'll highlight certain things because I really want that information to get embedded into my mind, because that's how it's going to transform my own life. It's not just reading something one time through.
Morning work for you or evening work? Because if I'm not up and out first thing in the morning, I'm not going to work out. Like I'm not going to, start working at 9 and say, got to go to work out. I'll see you back at here.
I've always been more of a night person too. So it doesn't matter. It's whatever works for you. And you could split it. You could go 30 minutes in the morning, 30 minutes at night, and then you can combine your motivation study hour with your workout routine, so at least this way you're killing 2 birds with 1 stone.
Yeah. Here's a tough one. I think is your principle number 11 is overcome the past. And I think a lot of people have a really hard time. My first chapter of my book is release, right? It's like, let go of what was, forgive everybody. They did the best they could, even if it was horrible. Now put your big boy britches on, your big girl britches on, and reparent yourself. And so that whole background thing for, that whole, where you came from, the familial tribe kind of thing it's a difficult thing for a lot of people to get over. So how when you're working with people and you're doing, your mindset work, what do you tell people about that?
So that's the hardest part. But see, it's our emotional attachments tied to our past and, outcomes that we might not have wanted to experience that happened to us. But we need to learn how to reprogram that mind and detach from those negative emotions. And really the only way to do that is by replacing it with a new belief, and the repetition of that new belief over and over again is going to destroy those old beliefs. Because it doesn't matter where you came from or what you've been through. It only matters where you're going forward. But if you keep repeating the same thoughts about your past and your background that might be negative, well, you attach an emotion to that, a negative emotion, and that's going to bring you into your present time. And it's as if you're experiencing that same negative experience all over again, just by rethinking that thought tied to the emotion.
Yeah, no doubt. And with that, I'm going to segue directly into your principle number 13, which is love and forgiveness, because that's such a huge part of your principle number 11, which is your background and your circumstances, where you came from and what they did to me and how much it hurt. And my parents screwed me up and all the things that we hear so many people say. I think if you can get to the point in your personal development and in your personal growth and your emotional stability, because there's a lot to be said for emotional intelligence, that's really where you can learn the love and forgiveness, I think.
Yeah, and that's a big thing, because if people have done you wrong, it's not them that you're hurting by holding the grudge or the resentment for life. You're hurting yourself. So that's where I really talk about having forgiveness for all people who have done you wrong.
Yeah.
It doesn't give them a second chance. You might have to get them out of your life, but don't hold on to the grudge, because that's just causing a negative vibration that you're putting yourself in. And I talk about send these people love. Have love for everything that you do. Have love for your career, what you're doing. Have love for other people that you meet on the street, because overall, that's going to transform your life into being a happier, better person.
I'm going to show everybody your book again. There's the shortcut to Magnificence. And again, we've been talking about the 13 principles to living a more successful life with Chris Livesey.
Yes. Clarissa. Livesey. Yeah. Sometimes I'll tell people live easy.
I don't like that with names. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to do that. Why don't you tell everybody as we're saying goodbye, where they can find you and how they can work with you?
Yeah, they can go right to my website at chrislivesey.com. So it's ChrisLivezey.com.
Okay, appreciate your time. I really do. Last question I normally do ask people is, in your entire lifetime, you cannot say marriage and children, what do you retain was your crowning moment?
Probably when getting the book from my father as a ninth grade student, because that's really what put me on the path that I'm still on today. And if it wasn't for that Zig Ziglar book, I don't know where my life would have ended up.
So thanks, Dad.
So what's that?
So thanks, Dad.
Yes, thank you. Even though he wasn't one to always follow the personal development
Of course.
pace, he had
Classic.
the book and gave it to me, which transformed my life. But I often would think to myself, maybe the book could have helped him out too.
Maybe you should have read a chapter or two. Chris, thank you
Yeah.
again for your time. Really appreciate it.
Clarissa, thanks for having me.
Thanks. Stay right there. We're just gonna say goodbye to everybody who's been listening. We have spoken to another fantastic entrepreneur and author, leader, and mindset coach. So get with Chris, and I will be seeing all of you again very, very soon. Thanks for listening to this episode of the In the Limelight podcast, intelligent media for the savvy entrepreneur. You can listen to this and all of my podcasts on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, Pandora, and Inspired News Radio. You'll find all of my videos and the In the Limelight digital magazine on clarissaburt.com. And don't forget to connect with me on social pretty much anywhere. Stay well until we meet again. In the Limelight. Thanks for listening to this episode of the In the Limelight podcast, intelligent media for the savvy entrepreneur. You can listen to this and all of my podcasts on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, Pandora, and Inspired News Radio. You'll find all of my videos